Hello and welcome to the West Ada Professional Technical Center for Culinary Arts. My name is Chef Vern Hickman and I will be demonstrating 15 classic knife cuts recognized by the American Culinary Federation. I should also mention that there will be an additional segment at the end of this video for the culinary teachers where I will show you some additional details that might help you in applying these cuts into your classroom. So to begin with, I'm going to be using a chart that I developed a number of years ago, and this chart will be available to all teachers within the state of Idaho. They can either pull that off of my class website or they can email me and I will make sure that I send this copy to them that they can use for their class lesson as I do. So to begin with, I'm going to start with how to hold a knife and how to use a knife before we get going on the cuts. So first of all, the best way to pick up a knife is to grab it with your thumb and forefinger just above the handle and then curl your other fingers back onto the handle of the knife. And then next, the reason a chef's knife is rounded here is so you can roll the knife. Food this way, or we can chop the food, and it's pretty obvious that slicing or cutting this way is going to be a lot safer than the chopping method. So the way to practice that would be for you to take and hold the knife like I showed you and practice rolling and then introduce the food. So also, the most common cut is the fingertips. So what you need to do is curl your fingertips back and then bring the food to the knife and cut with the back third or heel of the knife to do your cut. So practice your rolling method, introduce the food, and move the knife to your food or move the food to your knife, whichever works better for you. So you just rotate the knife and practice your cuts this way. Very easy, right? So the first cut on the chart is the chiffonade. The chiffonade is a garnish or a decorative cut, and I like to use spinach leaves to practice with, but you can also use bay leaves as well for this one. You want to roll that up nice and tight. And then again, picking up the knife the proper way, practicing the rolling method, cut off the end, and we don't use that. And then as you'll see on the dimensions, it's 1/8 of an inch thick. So we would take then some of these and put them on our tray. But again, this is a garnish that we'll use for various items. The next cut is a rondelle, which in the French means round, of course. And so what we'll do is, and I'm sure you know this trick already, you never want to peel your carrot over a trash can. You always want to peel it over your cutting board or over the table. So for the rondelle, I'm going to make a nice straight cut there. And then as you can see, the dimensions are 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to take that and make a couple of slices, 1/8 of an inch thick. And then I'm going to place those on my rondelle. And then the extra one that I cut, I'm going to actually put on the paysan. The paysan is also a round cut as well. It's 3 different designs, but one of those is a round. Okay, so next I'm going to take you through cutting up julienne, which leads to the brunoise cut, and then the bâtonnet, which then leads to the small dice cut. So first of all, I'm going to take my section that I've already cut to 2 inches. I know where the 2-inch mark is on my finger, so I like to mark it that way. Next, I'm going to hold that with my fingers, curling my fingertips back. I'm going to cut a flat spot, lay it down so it's more stable now. I'm going to cut another flat spot, and this I will use for my minced or for some other cut. Now I'm going to carefully cut my 1/8 of an inch thickness, and I'm going to make a plank out of that. And that will give me my julienne cuts. So I'm going to take the flat side that I already cut, and I'm going to look over the top of my knife and make sure my knife is lined up for 1/8 of an inch. And cut all of my juliennes, and then I'm going to choose my best one, and that's the one I'm going to put onto my paper. And I like to look at the ends to see if the ends are all even and square to make sure that I do have my best one. I'll take my best ones and put those onto my diagram or my knife cuts chart. And then I'll take my next best one and cut that into the brunoise. So for that, I'm going to just, again, curl my fingertips back, roll the knife, and I'm going to cut that into 1/8 of an inch cubes. And there those are. And then eventually, I would then put those onto my chart. Then for the bâtonnet cut, I'm going to follow the dimensions, which is 1/4 of an inch now, instead of 1/8 of an inch for the julienne. So I'm going to hold this carefully, cut that 1/4 of an inch. I can also take this other piece of carrot that I have and cut those. So now I'm going to take this plank and make my 1/4 inch cuts to get 2 and maybe 3 bâtonnets out of that. So again, looking at the ends, this is my best one. This is my second best one. And then I'm going to take the other one and cut that into 1/4 inch cubes. And that's going to be for my small dice, and I'm going to choose my best ones for that. All right, for the next cut, we're going to cut the oblique, which is an angled cut. I'm going to cut one corner off and then turn my product, my carrot, and cut that. So if you look straight on, it looks like a pyramid cut, but it's actually rounded because it's still part of the carrot. So this is a larger cut. This is used sometimes for a roasted vegetable along with the tournée potato that I'll be doing next. But it's a larger cut for a reason, because it holds the heat and holds its crispness as well. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to flute, or do a fluted cut, but how to flute a mushroom. This is the most difficult of all of the 15 cuts. This takes a lot of mushrooms to practice to be able to get this down. But you first need to pick up your paring knife, and the sharp edge is on this side, and I'm going to pick it up and hold it with my thumb and fingertip, just like this. And then I'm going to cut with this part of the knife right here. So I'm going to hold it flat onto my mushroom, put a little bit of an angle and a little bit of pressure on there, and I'm going to cut a small groove out of that, which is what the fluted cut is. It just means a grooved cut. So by doing this and holding this at the right angle, I'm actually shaving off a small amount of the mushroom skin at an angle. Then I'm going to peel off all of those loose pieces, and you can see the grooves on the mushroom. What I'm going to do next is take the tip of my knife, and this is what we used to do at a restaurant I worked at. We would do a fluted mushroom on top of our steaks, and we would saute these mushrooms. But I like to take the knife tip and make a 5-pointed star in the center. Then I'm going to cut the stem off, and then I would saute that mushroom. Our next cut is going to be the tournée. The tournée is a less common cut because it requires a lot more technique that a lot of cooks don't really have, but it is one of the classical cuts, so we still use it. So what I'm going to do is take my half of potato, which is not even close to the shape. The shape is like an elongated football. It's 2 inches wide by roughly a 1/2 inch in circumference. And the tournée has 7 sides. So I'm going to start off, first of all, I'm going to hold my knife like this, and I'm going to hold my thumb out and grab the end of the potato and do an arch cut. So I'm going to start about the middle of the potato, cut an arch like that. And you'll notice I didn't peel my potato first, because as I'm making my cuts, I'm going to be taking the peel off. But I did wash my potatoes before I got to this point. So I'm going to rough shape my potato first, And as you can see, I still have a flat side versus a round side. This is what it's all going to look like. So I need to take off a little more potato. The trick to this cut is to make your cuts all in one motion and not have to make multiple small cuts, because all of those lines are visible when you do. There we go. So I've got my 7 sides, and I've got the shape that I need, and I have a point on the end, and so then I just flatten out, take that point off, and there's the tournée. All right, the next cut is going to be a medium dice. So for the medium dice, the dimensions are, as you can see on the screen, a 1/2 inch cube. So I'm going to cut my 1/2 inch size. And then take a look at that. Square that off. And there's the medium dice. Then for the large dice, that's a 3/4 inch cubed. And it's a little bit off on one of my cuts, but that's pretty much it right there. Then the other 2 cuts that I need to do for my paisan, I have to do a pyramid shape. So I'm going to take an 1/8 inch cut, and I'm going to square that one off, and then I'm going to make this one my pyramid cut or triangle cut. So those are the 3 shapes of the paisan. Then the next cut, as I'm moving along, is the minced. So what I want to do is make sure that my minced cut does not look like the brunoise. Brunoise is cubed. Minced needs to be approximately the same size, usually a little bit larger, but it's irregular shapes. So what I'm going to do is make my first cut, then spin those around or move them around a little bit so they're not all facing the same direction. Then do the same thing again, and just keep turning the product different directions. And now I have my irregular shapes for the minced. So then the next cut is the julienne onion. I saved the onions for last because I don't like to cry in front of people. So I'm going to take the ends off, and here's how you want to basically peel an onion. Cut the ends off, and it's actually going to be easier if you don't peel it just yet, but cut it in half from top to bottom, and now it's much easier to get that peel off. And I have to throw out a disclaimer. If I'm crying during the middle of this, it's because these onions are really juicy, we've noticed in class. So I'm going to try to move along very quickly so I don't have to cry. So for the julienne onion, as we talked about with the julienne carrot, it's roughly 1/8 inch thick. For julienne carrot, oftentimes it's a little bit thicker than that. But I like to cut through that and make 2 cuts. The first one generally doesn't work very well. But then I will take the couple of slices from there and put those on the julienne cut. Then for the diced onion, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm not cutting all the way through like I did the julienne, because otherwise I'd keep getting the julienne cuts. Instead, what I'm going to do is cut through, but I'm not going to cut all the way through the tip here. I'm going to leave that part uncut and go all the way around the knife and then go from there. Also, you'll notice I'm not a big advocate on making the cuts straight up and down this way and then coming this way. And in fact, actually, I can show you why. You'll see this a lot on TV, and a lot of people will cut straight down and then they make their thin cuts. The problem with that is I have my thin cuts, which is what I want here, but the first cut is very thick versus the next cut, which is very thin. So because if you go straight down with your knife, you will have to go through and make 1 or 2 cuts going this direction. My experience has been that the people that are new at using knives, and a lot of the students, this is where they're more apt to cut themselves or take a fingertip off. So instead, what I do is I like to have the students do it a different way. And I like to angle my knife like this first, and then as I'm making the cuts, I slowly rotate the knife and take it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm using my fingers as a guide, again, keeping my fingertips curled back. Now, you don't have to go fast. You can take your time. So I make those cuts, and see, because I didn't go all the way through, the onion is still holding itself together. So then I just rotate and practice rolling. And then when I get to the end where it's still connected, then I dice the onion that way. So now it's all a very consistent size dice. Very fast, very easy, and yeah, that's a good onion. So then I'll just put a little bit of onion on there. And there are the classic cuts. Okay, this portion is for you teachers out there. I have a couple of opportunities that it might help you incorporate this into your classroom. What I do, first of all, is I have a blank chart. This is on my class website, but I can also make that available. If you will email me, I will send you this blank chart. And I do adjust this for the different classes. Here in the Meridian District, we teach the Nutrition and Foods as the first level, then we have Intro to Culinary as the second level, then the Advanced Culinary. And so for each class, I require different cuts. The Advanced Culinary perform all but the fluted mushroom, but they do all of the other cuts. I eliminate a couple of cuts for the Intro to Culinary, and I eliminate a couple more cuts for the Nutrition and Foods level. And then I will also pass on the assignment that I have the students do is I give them the blank form and I give them the dimensions and I give them a rough drawing, and then their homework assignment is to take those dimensions and put that onto the blank form that I give them, and then I grade this form and have them make any corrections that need to be done so that this is their practice sheet. Then I take them into the kitchen lab, they practice their cuts, and they hold them onto the chart. I have them put this in a plastic protector so it doesn't get colored or wrinkled, and they hold up their own cuts onto that when they practice at school and when they practice at home, so they can get prepared for the knife cuts test that I give them, which is the blank form all over again, and they perform minimum of 2 items per cut to show consistency. Then last, as another tool to help the teachers, this was put together by Sharon Muniz at Mountain View High School, and she's done a great job in putting this together. This is a really nicely made rubric for those 15 cuts. So with her permission, this will be made available to you. Again, if you'll email me, I can email all of these forms that I have available. So thank you very much, and good luck.